Okay, welcome to Run to the Hills, Countdown to the Spine with Stephen Brown. I'm John Kynaston, and it's great to have Stephen with us. This is our third episode, Stephen. We started the first one 13 weeks ago, and then we did one 10 weeks to go, 2 weeks ago, and now we're down to 8 weeks to go. So first of all, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling really positive. My training, last time I spoke to you, I had a calf injury, which had really stopped my training. I'm still in that position, and I haven't been able to do any running at all over the last 2 weeks. But my wife has persuaded me to do some proper stretching. I've been doing that morning and night, and I've really upped the squats that I was talking about last time. I can feel the difference in my quads and my thighs. I went out for a fast walk this morning. I could really feel the difference sort of going up hills in terms of my pace and stuff. So although I'm not yet back to running, I feel like I'm doing what I can to get over the calf injury and keep sort of on top of the fitness insofar as I can. So yeah, I'm feeling positive about that.
Excellent, good. And I gather this week you've had some good news from the race organisers. I've seen one or two things on Facebook of various things. So just give us a little outline of the documents and the information that you've been given as a competitor.
Yeah, so there's 3 documents that have been sent out to all competitors this week. There's a document which sets out how they're going to manage the start times. It's really clearly, it's well thought through. They've brought the start for the spine forward by a day or two, so it's going to start on the Friday now, but it's going to be staggered 2-hour starts in groups, with the fastest going off first through to the slowest going off last, which means that the field will stretch out, and it's going to ensure that the checkpoints aren't overcrowded and keep the race safe. There's a new kit update. The key details from that are that the sleeping bag spec is slightly changed in terms of your sleeping bag has to have a hood on it, and the bivy bag spec is changed in terms of it needs to be slightly more robust than on the previous spec. What I read into that is that they may be anticipating that it's more likely this year that people have to sleep outdoors than in previous years. I don't read any more into it than that, but that's a good indicator of perhaps some of the things that the race organisers are thinking through. And then there's the third document was to do with the first checkpoint is changed now, so I don't know where. I've got the grid reference for the first checkpoint, but I don't know what the actual location is. I've not looked that up yet, but it's encouraging because it makes it feel real, and it's clear that the race organisers are on top of all the things they need to be on top of in terms of putting the race on.
Yeah. So does that mean, Stephen, you've got to go out and buy some new kit?
No, because I'm fairly cautious when it comes to kit anyway, so I've always had a sleeping bag with a hood on it. Most sleeping bags which fit the kit spec are going to have a hood on them anyway, and I always use a robust bivy bag in any event, even though I don't sleep out. In case I have to, I wouldn't want to have a real lightweight bivy bag. So no, that's not to say that I won't go and spend money on kit between now and the race, but I don't have to. I'm in a fortunate position where I've got the kit that I need.
Yeah, excellent. And we will come on to kit at another episode, because I know that's one of the things that we'll chat about. Now, there's one more thing I wanted to ask you, and that was your weight. You remember you asked me to check up on you so you'd be accountable. And just before we started recording, you seem to have a grin on your face. So has it gone the right direction?
It definitely has this time. I was slightly mortified to be asked that on the last occasion, given how poorly I'd done. But I've been working away for the last 2 weeks, and I've found it easier as a result of being away to manage that side of things. So I think I was 12.8 last time you asked me, and I was 12.3 this morning when I weighed myself. So I've managed to drop 5 pounds, and I feel really that makes me feel very positive about the physical side of the race, even though I'm not getting any training in by way of running, but I feel like the weight management will make a big difference to my speed when it comes to race day.
So does that say something about Nicole's lovely cooking, the fact that you're away from the week and you've lost a few pounds?
No, I just think when no, it doesn't say anything. Nicole is a very good cook, but I think when I'm away, I've been staying in sort of self-catering apartments that I've booked, so I can just buy a small amount of very healthy food for the week and discipline myself to do that. Whereas when you're eating with the kids and they don't necessarily want to eat this, and then one night of the week they want a takeaway, and you're then in front of the telly and there's a bag of crisps going around, it's harder then to manage these things, whereas when I'm away I can just sort of look after myself. So
okay, so let's move on to this week. We wanted to chat about checkpoint strategy, and I must admit I was really looking forward to this one because I've met you a few times. We shared a tent together on the Dragon's Back, and the conversations we've had, I've learned a lot from the way that you look after yourself. So I thought for this one it'd be quite good to break it maybe into 3 parts. So the first one, if you could chat about what you can do now before the race, thinking about your, mental approach and getting your checkpoint strategy in place.
Okay, so I'll talk through what I do. And of course, what I do works for me. And I suppose, I'm not saying this is the only or the right way to do it, but people can take from it what they want. So number one for me about checkpoint strategy from now is the bag. On the spine, you have a 20 kilogram limit and you put everything into one bag, and that's what you have access to at checkpoints. And a lot of your checkpoint strategy is focused around that bag with all your spare kit in it. I have a very big, slightly oversized bag with a flip top on it, so that when it's open I can see everything that's in the bag in one go. So I'm never poking around in that bag looking for stuff which is hidden away in a corner. The benefit of having a slightly oversized bag is that by the end of the spine, your drop bag will be full of wet, muddy kit in bin liners. And if it starts off tight, then by the end of the race, you'll struggle to fit stuff into it. So that's number one, is the bag. Number two that you can begin to think about now is how that bag is organized. Again, there's no right way, but if I was blindfolded, I could probably put my hand on any one bit of kit that I wanted to in my bag. I have it organized exactly the same way every year. So at the back of my bag, snowshoes, spare poles, spare maps, things like spare torches, right at the back wall of the bag. Left to right, on the bottom on the left-hand side, spare shoes. On top of that, a bag with spare socks. Next to that, at the bottom, a bag with spare gloves, hats and buffs. On top of that, a bag with spare leggings. Next to that, at the bottom, spare coats. On top of that, spare dry tops. And these are all in separate bags, so they're compartmentalized and they stay like that. Next to that, on the far right-hand side, is a big, robust cardboard box with all my spare food. And on top of that is a Ziploc bag with all my spare medications. All the spare medications are broken down into days worth of paracetamol, days worth of ibuprofen, and all of the pre-cut bits of tape and stuff like that. So it's all there ready to access. And then at the front of the bag will be spare sleeping kit for sleeping in the drop bags and various other bits and pieces. But I keep the bag organized like that throughout the week. And at the start of the race, it may not feel like it makes a big difference. Believe me, by checkpoint 3, checkpoint 4, checkpoint 5, knowing exactly where that stuff is in the bag saves an astonishing amount of time. And I will make the effort. If it takes me 20 minutes or 30 minutes at the end of my time in a checkpoint to put the bag back in exactly that order, I will do it, because I know that I will save the time through the rest of the race. So that's what you can start to do at this stage, is think about how you're going to pack your bag and access your kit so that you minimize the amount of faff in checkpoints.
Wow, that is amazing. I reckon you could be a mastermind on what's inside your kit bag.
That's a very specialist subject.
It is. That's right. But I remember when I did the Dragon's Back with you last year, I had a duffel bag type one.
Yeah.
And that was a lot harder to access because it's a long way down.
Yeah, there's
if you,
always something at the
yeah,
bottom of a duffel bag, and you
yeah,
don't want to have to do that because it means you've got to take everything out
yeah.
to get to what's at the bottom of a duffel bag. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
exactly.
I really like that, and I think that point you made about at the end of a checkpoint, maybe we'll probably come on to that. But I remember you saying to me that you like to be kind to your future self.
Yeah.
Well, you could, maybe you'll come on to that one, but I think that was a really good phrase that you used.
Yeah, it's one of my race mantras throughout the race is being kind to your future self. But how that works in that scenario is if I spend 10 or 20 minutes putting it back exactly how I know it's set up, it means at the next checkpoint when I'm going to be more tired, more exhausted, more grumpy, more in a hurry, I save the time back because
Yeah.
things are where they know they are, and I'm not getting frustrated thinking where on earth is that bag of socks or where on earth are my spare maps, because I know where they are.
Yeah, obviously we're talking about the spine in this episode and these episodes, but the principles there are the same whether it's just a 55-mile race and you've got a support and you've got a car. It's the same principle, isn't it? If you know exactly where everything you want is, and it's in separate boxes or it's in separate bags. That I've been in checkpoints and I've watched people come in and people do faff around for ages trying to find that T-shirt or that pair of gloves that they want, and you waste 5 minutes, don't you? And you add that 5 times and it's half an hour.
Yeah, well, there's two elements to it. There is the time that you waste, and there is the incremental stress of the frustration. And over the course of a 7-day on a 50-mile race or a 100-mile race, okay, you're going to lose 5-10 minutes, and okay, you'll get a bit frustrated, but it doesn't really matter. I'm really, really certain from my own experience over the course of a 6-day race, that stress building up can be race changing and it can be race ending, because everything gets so low towards the end of the race like that. Your defenses are low, your viral defenses are low, people pick up infections, and the more you're putting yourself under stress, the more you're making yourself vulnerable to that. So the flip side, the more you can protect yourself from stress and keep yourself calm and things, so that you're not worrying, the more you're maximizing your chance of finishing a race, which is a multi-day race like the Spine.
Yeah, and I think, Stephen, something like that is something you can prepare for. We're 8 weeks away, and that's something that people can be practicing, getting the right bag, working out exactly where things are going to go, and get used to that. Even practice it, can't they? Packing the bag and maybe even try it blindfolded and see if they can find a piece of kit.
Yeah, this year somebody's going to come up and blindfold me and check if I'm actually telling the truth about that. Another thing about that, if as well as having everything in separate bags and boxes, every single separate bag and box within my drop bag is labeled with my name and race number on it, so that if I put something astray, the race organizers pick it up. They'll know who to return it to. That's another sort of tip that I've picked up.
Excellent. So that's thinking about now and what people can do 8 weeks away and in the next few weeks. Let's think about on the race day then. So you're coming into a checkpoint. Have you got a sort of strategy, maybe half an hour or so before the checkpoint as you arrive? Do you start to think about what you're going to do?
Yeah, I think that's really important. A good checkpoint discipline starts within the race as you're coming into the checkpoint. So when you're sort of 15 or 30 minutes away, that's when I begin to prepare for the checkpoint. And that works in a number of ways. So I will begin to think through what are the things that I need to do and see to in this checkpoint. What are my what do I need to attend to, and in what order? So I'm beginning to think through what I'm actually doing in the checkpoint. If there are particular things that I need to sort out, let's say it's a checkpoint where I have to swap over maps and I'm worried I might forget that, I'll begin to think, well, how am I going to remember that? A mnemonic or something like that might help me remember it. Or it might be as simple as I always keep a buff in a particular pocket. I might just swap it to another pocket so that I know when I get into checkpoint, I think, why is that in that other pocket? Triggers, I put that in there so that I would remember to swap my maps. So that's number one, is thinking through exactly what you're going to be doing in the checkpoint. And
do you ever write down? Because I know I've seen some people on races and they have like a checklist, so they bring that out and at this checkpoint I need to do this, 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 and this?
Yeah, yes and no. I don't write it down for individual checkpoints because in a race, I think in a race like the Spine, things are so variable that if you try and plan that far in advance, if I try to plan now what I'm going to do in checkpoint 4 on the Spine, the race will be completely different by the time I get to checkpoint 4. So no, I don't do that. In terms of what I'm going to do at checkpoint 4, that's something I'm thinking of half an hour out of checkpoint 4. But the yes answer to your question is that when I open up my bag, my flip top lid, pinned into the top of the lid so I can see it as soon as I open it, is a laminated list of things that I need to do in every checkpoint. Now, I created that list in the first year I did the Spine, and there are things on it which are now completely irrelevant, such as charging my watch. I don't use a watch for racing anymore, but I still keep the list there. I very rarely have to use it now because a lot of these things are automatic, but for me, it's good discipline. So if I'm at checkpoint 5 and I'm really, really beginning to sort of flag and struggle, and I find myself sitting there unfocused, not doing anything, I'll look at the list, think, right, I've done that, right, let's focus on this job. And I can, just use it as a way of keeping me moving along. So I do have a generic list, which is things I need to do in every checkpoint, but I don't try and sort of break it down into individual checkpoints. The other thing which I am doing as I'm coming into a checkpoint is my aim is when I walk through the doors at the checkpoint, all of my kit is already stashed away so that I can take my backpack off, hold it in one hand, and there's no other extraneous kit. So my head torch is off and packed away. My poles are folded up and lashed to my bag. My gloves are like in the pocket where I want them to be. So there's no other loose kit apart from what I'm wearing and a bag. If I can achieve that, I'm trying to do that. And the other thing I do, and this is a tip I took off of a racer who's done the Spine a number of times, Javad Bhatti, he's done a number of extreme events, is the 10 or 15 minutes before I'm coming into a checkpoint, I'm really trying to slow down and calm down everything, calm down my breathing, because if you're running, this is something I do even now on the West Highland Way, which is a running race, is when I'm coming into a checkpoint, I will begin to slow right down, because having your heart rate high and having adrenaline high is a real suppressant to appetite, for me at least, and for a lot of people. So if I can calm everything right down, then I'm going to be more focused in the checkpoint. But me, I'm more likely to be able to stomach food or eat food, which is obviously an important thing to be doing in checkpoints. So it's that's what I'm doing in that last half hour before I get to checkpoint.
Yeah, that's great tips there, Stephen. And I think there'll be some of those things that when you talked about stowing your kit away, that's such a good one, because if you arrive in a checkpoint and you've got things hanging off, you're more likely to mislay them as well, aren't you? If you drop something and don't pick it up again, or, it just takes you that bit longer to then sort those things out. So that's lots of great tips there. Okay, so we've thought about what you can do now. We've thought about what you can do that half an hour before you get to a checkpoint. Now, the crucial one, I suppose, is when you're actually there. So you walk through the door, and what's your strategy for that part?
So my strategy is to just keep driving through with doing things. There's so much time lost faffing at checkpoints, and I think I make up so much time on other racers. I very rarely overtake someone on the field, but I quite often overtake someone in a checkpoint. So I've got my plan about the things. The broad things you're going to need to do in a checkpoint are sleeping, eating, sorting your feed out, and sorting your kid out. And most checkpoints, it's going to be all four of those in different combinations. So I'll have an idea of which I need to do and in what order. And as soon as I walk through the door, I'm sort of saying hello to people, introducing myself. And let's say I'm exhausted and I want to sleep. When I walk through, I'll introduce myself. Who do I need to speak to about getting a room here for sleeping? Are you going to need to go and speak to that woman over there? So, I know who to go and introduce myself to. And it's about, for me, always doing something, but also trying to be one step ahead. So if I've decided I'm so tired that I want to sleep, and probably before I eat, some people don't like to do that, but often I do, but I'll still go and I'll check with the person I need to speak to about sleeping, but I'll also at the same time then go, what is the food here? Is that, if it's a certain time of day where I think they might be running out of that and then beginning to put on breakfast foods, I might sort of just double check about that, because I might not fancy breakfast food. So I'll be, introducing myself to people in the kitchen so I know what's going on there. If I need to get my feet sorted out, I might also, before I go to bed, just go in and, is there a long waiting list here for feet? Oh, it's 3 hours. Okay, well, could I put my name down now then, so I can come and get my feet sorted out when after I've had a sleep or whatever. So it's trying to make sure you're always doing something, and for me, trying to stay one step ahead. That I have seen so many people at checkpoints, and I'm sure I've done it myself, who are just sat on a chair staring vacantly into an open drop bag, and they clearly are, they're not really aware of what they're doing, and that's where so much time is lost. But if you can make sure that you're always doing something and always thinking about the next thing to do, then you'll minimize the amount of, or for me, I try and minimize the amount of lost time, so that I then, I get out of that checkpoint as soon as possible. And if I can give a sort of a stark illustration of how much time can be lost in checkpoint, in I think it's 2017 at checkpoint 5, I'd spent quite a lot of time on the race with an overseas racer, and I really got on with him, and I was ready to leave checkpoint 5, and he said to me, oh, do you mind if I come with you? I'm nearly ready to go. And he was fully kitted up. His bag was packed as far as I could see. He was pretty much ready to go. And I said, yeah, that's fine. I'll wait for you. We left that checkpoint 3.5 hours later.
No.
And that was all just him faffing about at the checkpoint. And the real irony is 10 miles later, he DNF'd in the race and I had to leave him. But that is that's an extreme example, but believe me, it's not, towards the end of the race like that, it's not 5 or 10 minutes people are losing in checkpoint. It is hours. People sit disorganized.
Yeah. I assume you've not promised to stay with anyone after that, have you?
If people ask a question like that, I quite like racing by myself. I've got to say, I like being in my own bubble on a race, but I would tend to be, I don't mind that, but if somebody asks me, I'll say, I don't mind, but I'm leaving in 10 minutes. So if you're ready in 10 minutes, that's fine. We'll go together. I try not to make myself sort of beholden if I can avoid it. It's a slightly antisocial thing, but I am there as well as to enjoy myself. I am also there to race, and I've got to keep my own strategy.
Yeah, and I think if your strength, as I think it is, what is your checkpoint strategy? If you waste 3 hours waiting for someone, then that's not going to help you, is it? Because if they're a faster runner,
it's not. And the other thing is, of course, when I'm ready to leave a checkpoint, that's on the basis that I've eaten food, so I've got my core temperature up. I've just had a couple of cups of strong coffee with loads of sugar in, so my energy levels are high. And 3 hours later, I could be right at the bottom of an energy peak, ready to go back to sleep again. So it's important in terms of your checkpoint strategy to do it so that you leave that checkpoint with as much energy, as much in the tank as you've got, so you get 3 or 4 hours of really productive forward motion.
Yeah, I'm assuming, Stephen, as well, that you like just do things once. I assume that you're trying to do it efficiently, are you? So that you know exactly what you need for this next leg, and you get it out, and that's it. You don't have to go back in again and keep repacking, as it were.
I'd much rather do something slowly, properly, and once than, as you say, do it at a rush and make a mistake and then have to do it again. It's not always possible to do that on a race like this. The Spine. I have been at checkpoint 5 and sealed up my drop bag 3 or 4 times, and every time I seal it up, I look over and think, oh no, there's the bag of socks, and I put them in. And you get to that point where you look and see the bag of socks. I need to put those in. You open up the drop bag, and by the time you've opened up the drop bag, you forget why you've done it. That's how sleep deprivation can work on a race like this. But as a general principle, it's better to be slightly slower, slightly more methodical, and get things right than rush too much.
Yeah. No, lots of great advice here. Just one thing on dirty kit. You said obviously at the end of your bag you're going to have a lot of dirty kit that you've worn.
Yeah.
How do you look after that so it doesn't, the dirty stuff doesn't um, ruin the clean stuff?
Well, so that's an advantage of having a slightly oversized drop bag. And within that drop bag, one of the things I'll have rolled up at the front is 2 or 3 of those drawstring heavy duty bin liners. And that's what I put wet, smelly kit in. And then they just sort of slot into a spare space in my in my drop bag. So I try and keep those separate and in a waterproof like I say, bin liner that I can get in and out of easily. The other thing I didn't mention about drop bag is then on the top of my drop bag, the first thing out and the last thing back in is a pair of Crocs for my feet and a warm gilet. So as soon as I get into the checkpoint, I open it up. I've got something to put on my feet, so I'm not which allows my feet to breathe but protects me from hurting my feet on the floor, but then a warm top, because you very quickly drop body temperature, or at least I do when I stop moving. So they're the sort of first things off and then the last things off and back into the bag at the end of a checkpoint.
Right. Excellent. Lots of great stuff here. And I'm sure people listening, watching this will, if they're doing the spine, it'll give them quite a lot to think about and prepare for. And it just shows you that I think, these multi-day races, they're not just about the physical side, are they? It's getting all these things right, isn't it? And I think your checkpoint strategy, I found that fascinating that you said later on in the race, it can be hours, not just minutes you lose, and that can be the difference between finishing or not finishing, can't it?
I think I said to you last week, I over the last couple of years, I've sort of monitored it more closely, but I'm usually leaving checkpoint 1 in about 80 to 90th position. And I'm finishing between sort of 25th, 30th position in the race. And that's time that, a lot of that is time that I'm making up in checkpoints. It's certainly not time I'm making up by running faster than other people. Although I do find that with a slow, steady strategy, actually, you also begin to walk faster than other people. But that's maybe something we can talk about another time, is sort of pacing strategy. But for me, I couldn't overemphasize the importance of good checkpoint strategy in a multi-day race like this.
Yeah. I'm assuming as well, Stephen, that as your checkpoint strategy changed a lot, if you look back to your first spine race, do you think you made some really classic mistakes, or were you always pretty efficient?
I think, without wishing to blow my own trumpet too much, this is an aspect of racing I've always been reasonably good at. I am quite a methodical person on issues like this. So the setup, I use exactly the same drop bag and pretty much exactly the same setup in terms of the way things are organized every single year that I've done the race. So that's not changed too much. I suppose what has been refined slightly is I know now exactly how the checkpoints are set up. I actually know some of the teams who work in the checkpoints, so I know who to speak to. So that enables me to be sort of slightly more efficient in terms of within the checkpoint. But a lot of it, I mean, as of course you try and sort of refine and pick up year on year, but I did a lot of thinking about these things in advance of year 1, and a lot of them have worked for me, so I've stuck with them.
Yeah, I do find it really interesting the way that I think the way people approach ultras does reflect their personality. Say for example, I love to, I love to analyze things. I love to have my mini splits. I love to have my watch and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And then I run with other people and then don't even bother with a watch. They just run by feel, and it's great because it almost reflects who you are, isn't it? And the way you approach things says a lot about your personality, probably.
It does. And the great thing is nearly all of these different personalities and different approaches are capable of getting to the finish line in an ultra or in a multi-day event like the spine. So there isn't a right way to do it. But doing it, it's interesting to develop your own way of doing it. And, I think it adds to the enjoyment of the race as well. I enjoy planning these things and, being on top of them.
Yeah. And I think certainly the multi-day stuff, it just adds another layer of planning, doesn't it? You know, if you're doing a 50-mile race, a 100-mile race, that is, you know, you don't have to think about the next day.
Yeah.
Whereas a multi-day one, it's just that I say it just adds more things to plan, doesn't it?
For someone like me who's slow but quite methodical and good at planning through these things, it
Mm.
allows me to become more and more competitive. So, you know,
Mm.
my probably best performance in a way was in an even longer race than the Spine, but because that was a 2 week long race,
Mm.
I saw the effects of planning and thinking through these things become even more important in the second week, and they
Mm.
really did sort of begin to benefit me. So it allows a plodder like me to look like they're half decent sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I just really appreciate you sharing your, hard-earned lessons, really. And again, I think that's one of the lovely things about ultra running, isn't it? That, well, we're competitors, but you genuinely want to see others do well in this race, don't you? And if you can help them, then
Yeah.
you get a lot of enjoyment out of that as well, don't you?
The two races that you know that I love doing, the West Highland Way and the Spine race, have completely changed my life. They've enriched my life. They've added so
Mm.
much to my sort of sense of self, my enjoyment. And so I am so, I'm enthused about the races, and anything I could do to help other people get those sorts of experiences, I'd always be happy to do, because they can be genuinely life-changing experiences.
I think ultra running, it has that atmosphere, doesn't it, where people want to help and encourage one another.
Yeah, I think one of the positive things about the fact that there's very little money even at the
Yeah.
top end of this game, there's sponsorship deals, but there aren't many people at all in the world who are doing this at a professional level. It means that they're smaller. There aren't as big egos as there might be in something like professional track athletics and stuff like that. So I think people are generally, it's a lovely community. That's one of the ways it's sort of enriched my life, and that's one of the things I've got out of it, is it's such a lovely community of people to be involved in. My wife Nicole, who in her 40s, did a couch to 5K and now does 100-mile races,
Mm.
just because she wanted to be involved in the ultra running community, because she had supported me and seen what lovely people there were. That's what a difference it can make, how nice people are in races like this.
Yeah. And my wife, Katrina, is exactly the same. She
Yeah.
started running because all our friends were runners and she thought she'd have a go as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good community. Okay. Well, thanks so much. We're going to finish again with our little sort of out of 10. So we've been asking you to mark out of 10 your physical condition and your mental. So 5 weeks ago, you were 2.5 physically. You'd moved up to 3 2 weeks ago. So where would you say you are now on your physical preparation?
Yeah, I'm going to give myself a 4, just because I am feeling a lot more positive about some, the definitely the weight aspect. I could actually feel the difference when I was out walking this morning. I think if I can get back into running over the next couple of weeks, then that's going to start going up and up. But I'm going to put myself on a 4, so I'm still on an upward trajectory, and I've got definite room for improvement.
Okay, and mentally you were 7.5 and then 8. So where would you say you are?
I'm going to put myself 9. I'm feeling
Okay.
really positive about the race. So yeah.
Yeah. And I must admit, just chatting to you over the last few minutes, I can sense that as well. I think getting those emails this week probably really helped, didn't it? Because you can see that the race organizers are really, as confident as they can be that the race is going to go ahead. So that, I think that just helps your mental state, doesn't it? Knowing that there's a good chance all this preparation is going to be used.
When you get an email telling you that you could be starting at this time or this time,
Yeah.
and these are the slots we've got, it begins to feel very real. You think of yourself there at 10 o'clock on that Friday morning, or in my case it's more likely to be 2 o'clock the following morning or something like that, because I'm going to be one of the back markers. But it does give it that real sense of reality. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think I've only done one race this year with the time trial at the Hardmoor's 55, and it worked quite well. You start off with a group of 5 or 6, and then there's some catch you, and you might catch a few people. But it's because really a lot of ultras within the first mile, you separate anyway, don't you? The top guys are away, the ones behind you. And I found it amazing. Sometimes you might be in a race with 200-300, but literally within a mile, you can be on your own, can't you?
Yeah, the spine's a little less like that
Okay,
because so many people start off at a walking pace, and
right.
also there's so many gaits and styles that people tend to congest at those
All right.
anyway. But what you tend to have is the top, there's the elite pack, which will set off at a jog running pace, and they pull away throughout the whole race, and you never see them again. Then you get a group of people who probably set off too fast and are just behind them, and then the majority of the field are sort of mooching along in a big pack, and they begin to string out, over the course of like 24 to 48 hours. But in that first 24 hours, you tend to see the same sort of largish groups of people a lot of the time. But it's a nice atmosphere that first day. I always enjoy that. I feel like I'm getting my race legs during that first day.
So I suppose that staggered start, it might help with the styles and things, so there'll be less congestion, won't there?
Yeah, it probably will do. It'll be a new experience for me, so it'll be interesting to see how that does work.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for doing this one, and we'll meet again in a couple of weeks, and we'll you can pick another topic that we can chat about and help people prepare for the spine. So thanks for this afternoon, Sephen. Great to see you again, and look forward to chatting again in a couple of weeks.
Brilliant. Thank you.